Fox Sports.
We are the Force. We are the Force.
This afternoon, the Rays continue their march to the All-Star break. Fresh off dropping a 2-1 decision last night in a pitching duel. The Rays and the Astros meet in Game 2 of this 3-game series here at Tropicana Field. The Rays continue to run second in the American League East, 4.5 back of Boston. Baltimore running third, 5.5 back. The Yankees have dropped their game to Minnesota today. They are 6.5 back. Texas and the Rays 1-2 in the wild card race. Hi again, everyone. Welcome to an afternoon, a late afternoon start here at Tropicana Field of Rays baseball with Brian Anderson. I'm Dwayne Stats. Todd Callis along in just a moment. Great to have you looking in. Well, the Rays out to start a new streak. They had a little trouble with the young right-hander last night, but in the middle of their lineup, they have Luke Scott, who has an 8-game hitting streak. It's the rat tail streak, really. And he had a great at-bat to drive in a run last night.
That started on this homestand, and you seen Joe Madden try to play the hot hand, move him up in the order. Today against the lefties, a little bit further down. If you go back a little bit further, the last 12 games, the average at 381, you see almost half of the hits, extra base hits. He's got that power stroke going again. The on-base percentage very good. Much more comfortable at the plate, and what that has led to is a swing that is more decisive, and therefore it's been more aggressive. That's why you see those extra base hits, the production, 3 home runs mixed in that last 12 games, and Luke Scott will continue to try and get that done today from a little further down the order.
So the Rays try to get even in this series with Houston. They are now 7-1 on this homestand. They had their 8-game streak snapped last night by a count of 2-1. And the Houston Ball Club will have a familiar face in its lineup. Matter of fact, right at the top of the lineup here in Game 2 of this 3-game series, Carlos Pena. Todd Callis will have more on the return of Carlos Pena to the Trop in a moment.
Rays and the Astros getting ready on a Saturday from Tropicana Field. Middle game of this 3-game series. It is 70s night here, so of course there is a disco duck over by the Rays gong. It all makes sense as the Rays play Game 9 of this 10-game homestand. You know what also makes sense is that Carlos Pena is leading off today for the Astros. Why not? I mean, here's a guy who last year when he was struggling, Joe Madden put him as a leadoff hitter in the late part of May and early part of June, and for the first time ever, he's in the leadoff spot for the Houston Astros. Really resurrected his career for the Rays. Remember, he did not make the team originally in 2007. Greg Norton was injured. When Joe Madden told him he didn't make the team, Carlos said, "I don't believe you." And sure enough, he was right. He would be the comeback player of the year that year with 46 home runs, 121 RBIs. The next year wins the Gold Glove. The Rays go to the World Series and an All-Star in 2009. When we talked to Carlos yesterday, he said a lot of great memories when he comes back here to the Tampa Bay area.
Best times of my career thus far have been here. So very, very special place. This is something that I was looking forward to, and I want to just enjoy every single moment. This place has been so gracious to me over the years that how could I expect anything more? It's my price already been given. The love that I've received in Tampa Bay has been second to none. So I don't expect anything at all. I'm actually very grateful for what I've been given here. So anything else that I experience is just a plus.
Well, the crowd will get to greet him with the very first batter of the game in 3 minutes until the first pitch. It'll be Roberto Hernandez on the mound for the Rays. Dallas Keuchel, the lefty, going for the Houston Astros. The Rays this year 17-10 against lefty starters. Enjoy all the action next on Sunsport.
Come to an end, and it took a dazzling debut to snap the Rays' win streak last night. Flash forward to today. Luke Scott and the Rays offense try to shake off the loss, break out the heavy lumber, and boogie their way to victory lane on disco night. So do a little dance, Rays fans. It's time for Rays baseball. All the dancing, not in the stands, a little in the dugout as well. Led by Yanel Escobar there. The Rays and the Astros move into the second game of their 3-game series. We'll take a look at the Houston lineup. Lineup presented by Sweet Bay Supermarket. Carlos Pena is going to lead off. Then Jose Altuve and Jason Castro, the catcher. J.D. Martinez, Brett Wallace, and Justin Maxwell down the middle. Mark Krause, Matt Dominguez, and Jake Elmore rounding out Bo Porter's lineup.
Now taking the mound this afternoon for the Tampa Bay Rays going to be right-hander Roberto Hernandez, and quite frankly, his last 3 starts, he has pitched on the wrong day. An 0-2 record, ERA of just over 4. In the 2 losses, the Rays scored a grand total of 1 run in those 2 ball games. Roberto has definitely pitched well enough to win, hasn't gotten it done.
And the first pitch of this game, presented by Pinch a Penny, is a fastball away. Carlos Pena leading off here against Roberto Hernandez. Pena in the leadoff spot for Houston for the first time this year. There's a strike, and the count is 1-1. And we know during his time here with the Rays, Joe Madden from time to time would pop him into that leadoff spot.
We've seen Joe Madden do that with a number of players. I think this boils down to the return to Tampa Bay. Didn't get to play last night, so let's get the drama out of the way right away.
And a liner into center for a base hit. Backhanded by Jennings, and Pena is aboard with the leadoff single.
Carlos Pena got a slider out over the plate, hit that ball back into center field. Trying to backdoor that pitch, and Carlos stays right on it as it comes into the zone. Shoots it out into center field.
Houston started last night's game with a base hit from Jake Elmore. They collected 4 hits and 2 runs in the first. Pena's aboard to start the contest here in game 2. Now Jose Altuve. And there's a strike. Altuve at 280. 0 for 4 in the game last night. Foul down the third base side. The count is 0-2.
How about Jose Altuve being extended contractually, the recipient of a new 4-year deal? A couple option years at the end that'll take him through at least 2017.
Well, he was their team MVP last year. 290 and stole over 30 bases. One ball, 2 strikes.
Well, if you're the Houston Astros, and we talked about the opportunity that these players have to try to prove themselves and become part of the future, and obviously Altuve, with his performances so far, all-star last year, has done that. You can pencil him at second base for the next few years.
And Roberto misses a little wide with that fastball to take the count to 2-2.
Oh, this take here by Altuve on that pitch, he wasn't going to be able to do anything with it. Just see that ball off the plate. It was close. Not close enough.
Altuve recently has been hitting out of the number 2 spot, really there more than any place else. They had utilized him as a leadoff man earlier. That's it, foul.
The thing that you like about him is if you're trying to create a little bit of offense and you got a guy that's, you know, non-base percentage type guy that you can put ahead of him, he handles the bat very well. He's got a short stroke. It's compact. He can push the ball to the right side, hit and run. Good bat control. He is ideal for the 2 spot in a lineup. Just got to find the ideal leadoff man. That's part of the process here for the Astros.
Foul ball. Well, he's straight away a lot, but you can see also 21 hits to right.
Yeah, and you know, you're not always going to have perfect proportion. You know, and it's not going to be like James Loney we saw in his recent hit streak, 32 hits, 10 to left, 10 to right, 12 up the middle. But if you're going over the right side for 21 hits and 44 up the middle, That shows you right there that you can handle the bat, stay inside the baseball, and move it around.
This one fouled the other way. So here early, an extended at bat. That's 7 pitches into this at bat. Just 23 years old, Altuve. Behind him is Jason Castro, who will represent the Astros at the All-Star game this year. The young catcher. A couple of the components of the future we see here in Altuve and Castro. Chopper to third. Longoria to second out there, and that's a nice play by not only Longoria but Zobrist.
There may be 1 or 2 other third basemen that would have even made that play, but right there, Evan Longoria knows Carlos Pena running, not your typical leadoff guy, and so as he's charging in, he's thinking 2 all the way. Zobrist right there to receive the throw. A lot of third basemen just take that ball and fire it across the first and take the out there. Aggressive play, the right play, heads up play.
Well, that's the amazing thing about Longoria, his ability to put the ball exactly where that second baseman needs it, regardless of where Longoria starts. And Zobrist cleared to get out of the way of Pena. So Altuve's at first with 1 out. Jason Castro. Shoots it toward the corner and right. That's going to one-hop the wall. Myers retrieves it. Altuve will go to third on the double by Castro. And a first-inning threat right here by Houston.
Cut off. Now this was a changeup here by Roberto Hernandez, and he just left it right out over the plate. I mean, that is middle. And Castro reads it easy and then just hammers it down into the corner to give the Astros their first scoring threat of the afternoon.
Here's J.D. Martinez. He's hitting .259. Pitch is down. He hails from across the state on the eastern coast of Florida. Ground ball toward the hole. It's short. Long throw to first. Escobar got his man. Wow. What a play by Escobar. Altuve scores. Castro remains at second, and Martinez out number 2 at first base.
Well, we've seen Escobar make spectacular play after spectacular play. They don't get much better than this as he leaves his feet to make the throw. Scooped out by James Loney. I mean, forget a half a step. That was about a quarter of a step they got him by. Jump throw, and they get him. What a play.
Well, we've seen some outstanding defensive work by Escobar. And there's another example. Run scored. Now Brett Wallace. Pitch down. 1 ball, no strikes. Hot shot deep into right. Myers looking up, and that one's going to get out of here. And Wallace, who hurt the Rays in Houston, has jumped on that pitch. A 2-run blast, and that gives Houston a 3-0 lead here in the first.
Well, you can only hope that Roberto Hernandez responds the way that David Price did in yesterday's ball game. David gave up 2 in the first, and then that would be it. But another pitch that just catches the middle of the plate, and Wallace, who's been swinging a powerful stick as of late, drills this ball out of here. Wallace hit 2 home runs against the
Rays for the Astros over in Houston on that Thursday day game. And hits one out here. That's his 4th home run of the year. 3 off Rays pitching. Now Justin Maxwell counts 1-1 to Maxwell, the center fielder for Houston.
Nice sinker there to tie up Maxwell. That ball starts on the inner third, and then he runs it in off the plate under the swing. I'd love to see him get that pitch working.
Tap, still the ball, and 2 strikes. Maxwell just off the disabled list. Had some concussion issues recently. Initially suffered that while trying to make a diving catch. Looper into short right field. That's going to fall for a base hit. He's going to head for 2. Myers' throw will not get him, and it skips past Escobar, backed up by Longoria. Maxwell dropping a double inside the right field line.
I'll tell you what, Justin Maxwell can scoot. That ball ran in on him. He fought it off, dropped it into right field. But boy, coming out of the box, he had double on the mind. He was low flying around first base. Will Myers comes up firing. He sees where that ball's at, and he's going to turn it on right here. He is gone.
That's one of the things the Astros really like about him. He's 29 years old. They picked him up on waivers out of the Yankees organization. And he's one of the guys who they think could be a part of their future here over the next few seasons. It's impressive right there, his get up and go.
Well, that skill, you can't teach that. That's something that you can improve upon, but that natural speed is a gift. He's got it.
Mark Krause takes a pitch high. Maxwell with his 7th double of the year in scoring position with 2 outs. Hernandez behind Krause, 2-0. Just a little bit of that one. 2-1. Maxwell with the lead. And Roberto behind Krause, 3-1. He's up to the mid-20s now in pitch count. Takes a strike. That runs the count full. Martinez drove in a run with a ground ball. Wallace hit the home run. And strike 3 comes back to catch the plate to retire the side. 7 men come to the plate. Houston puts up a 3 spot, leaving 1. Rays coming in to hit. Rays lineup presented by Sweet Bay Supermarket. Desmond Jennings followed by Sean Rodriguez and Ben Zobrist. Evan Longoria, Will Myers, and Luke Scott down the middle. James Loney, Jose Molina, and Yunel Escobar, 7, 8, and 9. They're facing Dallas Keuchel. The pitch is in there for a strike. Change up from the 25-year-old left-hander. One and one. Well, Desmond starts the day at 264. He has reclaimed that leadoff spot. He's also 5th in the league in runs scored. Chopper down to first. Wallace, Keuchel's going to have to cover and takes the toss. That's the first out.
Now let's take a quick look at the defense as it lines up this afternoon for the Astros. In the outfield, left to right, Krause, Maxwell, and Martinez. Across the infield, third to first, Dominguez, Elmore, Altuve, and Wallace. Jason Castro will be behind the plate.
The Rays saw Keuchel over at Houston. Out of Tulsa, he went to school at Arkansas.
Complete command and control guy. He's just going to move the ball around, change speeds, cut it, curveball, change up, try to get you off balance. That is his game plan. And tell you what, he does it. He's a guy that does rely upon command. That start that the Rays were able to get to him actually knocked him out after 4 2/3. Season high in walks that they were able to work off of him with 5 to go along with their 8 hits.
2-1 to count to Sean Rodriguez. The Rays got to him for 3 in the third. Ryan Roberts that home run off him. 3-1.
Let's see, that's what he wants you to do. Sean Rodriguez, he wants to give him that fastball in a 2-1 count just off the plate. Try to take advantage of his aggressiveness and get outs on that pitch.
Ground ball shortstop, backhanded by Elmore. The one-out throw is in time. Out at first, says Will Little.
Yeah, that was a nice play by Elmore, ranging to his right, getting rid of that ball. And a nice job by Wallace to get down there, get behind that baseball, and make the pick for his shortstop. Deep throw here. Got to bounce it, but Wallace gets down there, stretch, makes the play. Just in time.
So a couple of ground ball outs. And here is Ben Zobrist. First pitch to Ben is a strike. Two. Houston with a 3-run first. Keuchel has retired the first 2 Rays hitters. The dirt. Zobrist had a double off Keuchel in that game in Houston. Still the ball, 2 strikes. Keuchel last year made 16 starts. Through 1 complete game, was 3-8 with Houston. 4-5 this year. Started the year in the bullpen. Made 7 relief appearances, and this is his 12th start. Bouncer out to Elmore, it's short. And the Rays go up and down 1, 2, 3 on 3 ground balls. On to the second inning, 3-0 Houston. Brought to you by Coventry Healthcare. Coverage so you can keep living the life you want. Go live. We've got you covered. And by Toyota. Let's go places. Matt Dominguez. First pitch is a strike. Dominguez, the third baseman. Down the left field side toward the corner. Rodriguez on the run. He got it. Sean Rodriguez just across the line into foul territory. Makes a nice running catch and a little slide to end it.
Well, you got that low wall coming up, so he's going to go over there. He understands there's not a lot of room to play with over here as he gets close, so make the catch and go into the slide right now. You take another couple of hard steps and you're going to flip right over that wall. Very, very nice play by Sean Rodriguez, covering a lot of ground.
Jake Elmore, pitch inside, so another outstanding defensive play here by the Rays on that left side, this time in left field. To strike to Elmore. Sean Rodriguez, as we know, has played all over the place, and left field starting to be a good spot for him. He's done a nice job out there. 1 and 2. Made 17 starts in left field now. He's made more starts there than any place else. That's another shot. It's going to be foul. That one a little harder and a little more on the line.
And left field seems to be one of those positions that the Rays can rotate some guys through. You think about Kelly Johnson getting a lot of time in left. Of course, now Matt Joyce getting time in left. Sean Rodriguez. None of which are a left fielder. Matt Joyce, the closest thing to a true left fielder.
Yeah, he moved over from right. Kelly Johnson came in as a second baseman and has played almost every place except there. Occasionally he gets to play second.
Throw him a bone every now and then.
Yep. And he's done a nice job. Kelly Johnson, the same way Sean Rodriguez has done that. And like a lot of players who come here, he's found a comfort level playing here under Joe Madden. And a foul ball. Elmore is still alive.
Boy, I'll tell you, Jose Molina a little bit upset because they just about had a strikeout there. That ball really ran in and gets underneath the swing of Elmore. Just gets enough of it on the foul tick and cannot quite hold on. Boy, so close.
Yeah,
so close.
If he could have just figured out any way to hang on to that pitch, he's out. He's out now. So Elmore strikes out. 2 gone.
94 with late dip. I'll tell you what, I'll take that all day long. Look at that, just that late little bit of action gets it right underneath the swing.
Well, he had some nice action on the call third strike to Krause in the first.
Yes.
That came back and got him on a 3-2 count. And some action right there on Elmore. Now here's Carlos Pena. It stays in off the plate. Pena singled in the first inning. So one thing that Pena up there does for Bo Porter, it might give him an extra at bat with the power quotient in mind. You got a guy who strikes out a lot, but as we know has power, and so you run him up there, always mindful of the long ball. And Hernandez is behind him 3-0.
And a guy that likes to work long, arduous at-bats. He will take a walk, so you talk about the on-base percentage. Not going to be much of a threat to run, but like you said, power, maybe an extra AB during a game, on-base percentage, already got a hit today, and there's your walk.
So he's on twice in 2 innings with a single and a walk.
Well, when you could see the way Roberto pitched him. Once he fell behind 2-0, it just was not going to give him something out over the plate because of that power.
Here's Altuve. Ball one. First two men retired, one on a very good play by Rodriguez in left, and then Elmore struck out. Pena walked on 4 pitches. Rays saw their winning streak snapped at 8 last night at a 2-1 loss. Coming into this one, they won 12 of 14. This one left, and one more tomorrow before the All-Star break. That's a strike. It's 1-1. Runner takes off and stops. Pena bluffing a start there and put the brakes on.
And he may just be trying to time up Roberto Hernandez, try to catch the Rays by surprise later. Well, you wouldn't put anything past Bo Porter at this point. Try to manufacture something. You've got a lead. Can be a little bit more aggressive than normal.
Foul ball. Well, they've won only 33 games, and they're last in the league in hitting. They've scored only 348 runs. So to be up in a game early like this, in some ways new territory for Bo Porter, and you can be a little more aggressive that way.
And why not? Why no? You're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
You're not going anywhere. You're not going to the playoffs. You're probably going to finish in last place. Why not play aggressive?
Roller over the mound. Escobar is going to take it to first. Out the call. Altuve out short to first. No hits, a walk, and a man left. 3-0 Houston.
Coming up to start this inning, it was evident at the plate last night when the game ended, and afterwards he tweeted out a message of support to David Price, who had that fantastic start. Longoria wrote, "Horrible feeling when you can't help a guy who pitched like David Price did tonight." And then Price responded later, "Love you, Geets, always will." Geets is Price's name for Longoria. It comes from Geeterman. I asked Longoria about that. He said, I have no idea where that comes from, but that's what Price calls me. Guys, back to you.
All right.
I try to make heads or tails of that myself. At least there's a story behind it now. I saw the tweet earlier saying Geets, and I'm like, okay, there's a story there.
Yep.
Geeterman, but even Evan said, I don't know.
Yep.
There you go.
All right.
Hashtag always will, RT. I don't even know. This is all the foreign language to me.
Yeah, Roger over and out, things like that.
Yeah, sure.
2 strikes the count to Evan.
That's why we rely on Barry
Yeah.
to clue us in, because I don't
Yep.
have one.
And somebody has a clue. Because you're right, we don't. 1-2 the count on Longoria with Myers next, and then Scott. Oh, strike 3 call. Longoria caught looking.
Now, this is when Dallas Keuchel is at his very best. Move you around, slow you down, and then surprise you. Boom. Right here, right at the knees on the inside corner. Get you looking out over the plate. Come right in the front door.
Will Myers. Strike 1 on the foul ball. Will right there, 271. 3 homers and 15 runs batted in. He was 0 for 2 with a walk last night. Myers had a couple plate appearances against Keuchel over in Houston. An official at bat, he was 0 for 1 and walked twice. And is down on the count, a ball, 2 strikes now. Rays playing a little catch up early. Houston put up 3 in the first.
Well, the Rays, they were able to get to Keuchel for 5 runs in 4 2/3 innings in that start 2 starts ago in Houston. So they feel like they're going to have their opportunities.
Yeah, they had 8 hits and 5 walks in that game in 4 2/3. And Myers reaches and is out on strikes on the fastball.
That is exactly how Keuchel wants to get you out. Get ahead in the count and then force you to chase something off the plate, or at least entice you. You see, he starts that fastball on the outside corner, and then the late movement just takes it off. But with 2 strikes, ball out of the hand, you're thinking, borderline, too close to take. You commit on your swing, and then all of a sudden it's just not there anymore.
Here's Luke Scott. The pitch is in there for a strike. Those are the kinds of pitches that keep Keuchel, a young left-hander, around, and a team continues to run him out there, hoping that he develops consistency with that.
Yep.
He doesn't have to throw 95. He's at 89, 90. I think that pitch was 91, the first pitch to Scott. That's about it in the velocity department, but with some late movement, that's attractive to a team.
Yeah, right, especially when you can place it. I mean, when you can get that ball and have good command of it. The other thing I love about him is without being a flamethrower, without being 89 to 91, his willingness to pitch in on the righties. He's not afraid to come right in there with that fastball. You saw he got Ben Zobrist had to change his swing, try to get to it, hit a weak ground ball to short, and he caught Longoria looking. So he will use the entire plate, even though he is not overpowering. And guess what? Because you're not overpowering, you need to use the whole plate.
Tapper Altuve at second base handles that one. A 1-2-3 inning again, and we go to the third. 3-0 Houston. Available in Spanish via SAP. Brought to you by Coventry Healthcare of Florida. .32-year-old right-hander Roberto Hernandez on the mound for the Rays. Touched for 3 runs in the first. And he faces Jason Castro, the catcher, to open the third. Ball, no strikes to Castro. Castro went to Stanford. Drafted out of college by Houston. First round pick in 2008. Oops it into left. That's going to fall in front of Rodriguez. Sean trying to determine if he was going to have an opportunity to make a great catch on that one, and then had to play it on one hop and a little trouble putting the landing gear down.
Yeah, a little stumble there at the end for Sean Rodriguez. Not a bad pitch by Hernandez at all. That's a ball moving down in the zone, and Castro just kind of flips it out there into left field. Unfortunate he was able to keep his feet. That ball bounced by him, and Castro's still running.
J.D. Martinez runs inside. We have seen Hernandez at times with such great movement that he can't keep the ball in the zone.
Well, how many times have we seen that this sinker that when he elevates it will run, just like that one to Martinez? How many times he clipped the right-handed hitter with that pitch?
Yeah, he's hit a number of batters this year, 8.
Yep. A lot of them.
And he's not throwing at anybody.
No. No. In fact, he's come close a couple of times tonight with some swings.
2-0. Castro at first. Martinez ahead in the count, and Brett Wallace is on deck. Off speed and a fly ball into left on the change. Sean Rodriguez makes the catch, and that's out number 1. Tomorrow the Rays take on the Astros again, and pop sensation Carly Rae Jepsen performs after the game. The concert is free with Sunday's ticket, and fans can take in the concert from the field by purchasing a field access wristband. Visit RaysBaseball.com/concerts or call 1-888-FAN-RAYS You might just want to get to see Brian Anderson's acid wash jeans. And they're pinch rolled, of course. That's what this says.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I still know how to do that.
Okay.
I used to do that. That's a sweet look. I took that look to college. And one of the...
It really worked, didn't it?
Not really. There was one of the female volleyball players who is now actually the head coach at Wright State, pulled me to the side after like the first couple of weeks of the school year and said, you know what, may have played in high school, but
not here.
You got to clean it up a little bit.
Zobrist Escobar 1, first base 2. Wallace rolls into a double play. Pinched at first on the back end. And it's 3-0 Houston as we go to the bottom of the third. (3-0) Houston leading the Rays. Rays coming into bat in the bottom of the third. In the game tonight and all season long, Tires Plus donates $100 to the Pediatric Cancer Foundation for every Tampa Bay Rays home run televised on Sun Sports. Six up, 6 down for the Rays against Dallas Keuchel, the Houston left-hander. And James Loney fared pretty well against lefties this year. Will lead it off.
But you wonder why he's been red hot in his last 23 games. If you go back those 23, the batting average was sitting coming into play on June the 19th at 296. Lowest point of the season, and he has really turned it around since then, and that is the reason why, again, using the entire field to do his work.
It's 101 hits on the year, and he fouls the fastball back, strike one.
Now, he's just so dangerous to pitch to because of his willingness to do that right there. You want to pitch him down and away, that's fine. He'll take the ball the other way, back up the middle. You stay in one place for too long, yes, he will turn on it too. Quick hands through the zone. He just can hurt you in a myriad of different ways.
Lifts it down the left field side with some slice on it. Going to be out of play. And the count is 0-2.
I'll tell you the other thing that he does, and we talk about him spraying the ball over the field ad nauseum, but he rarely chases. You know, you don't really see him go out of the zone too often. I mean, he will do it. He's a human being.
Hey, I can really only think of all the at-bats he's had. Maybe 3. I know two or three times.
Yeah,
we've seen him do that.
It stands out. Yep. It's very rare.
He strokes it into center, and there you go. Breaking ball and a base hit.
Did you just see how he waited on that? I mean, the pitch recognition out of the hand, and he just let that ball start to break and then hit it when it got to its lowest point. Look at it. Just wait. Now go down and get it. I mean, simple, smooth, and very effective. That's just beautiful. They just cut down the stride.
They spread out a little bit.
It's so hard to pitch to those guys. Yeah. It is so hard to pitch to those guys.
So the Rays have their first base runner. Here's Jose Molina. Keuchel has made 6 first pitch strikes of the first 7 hitters he's faced. In contrast, Hernandez 4 of the first 14 hitters first pitch strikes. Broken bat and a chopper back to the hill. Keuchel goes to second one, and an easy toss to first for the double play. That bat split in half, and that barreled in, wound up back over the mound and behind the mound towards shortstop.
I'll tell you what, that ball comes, or the bat comes flipping off Keuchel's way, and I guarantee you he's not even thinking. He's focused on the fact that, oh my gosh, I got a chance for 2 outs right here. Forget about that barrel of that bat coming out. See that ball right off the end is what shears the bat, and Keuchel gets a nice hop to work with and an easy turn.
So Keuchel throws a double play ball, and boy, that's what really hurt the Rays last night, and the great effort put out there by Jared Cosard, the 23-year-old starter. He threw 4 double play balls. Dominguez takes care of this little tap to third off the bat of Escobar. We go to the 4th. It's 3-0 Houston.
Follow Casey and the Sunshine Band as part of Disco Turn Back the Clock to the 70s night here at Tropicana Field, which is funny, guys, because when you think about disco themes at baseball stadiums, Disco Demolition Night comes up a lot. Not only do we have somebody here to my right who was at that game, he was the starting pitcher for the White Sox in Game 1 of that doubleheader. Fred Howard, tell us about that night. What a crazy night it was, huh?
It was a crazy night. Well, my claim to fame, I had the 1 year in the big leagues in '79, and, you know, White Sox, we weren't real big that year, but Bill Veeck always had some type of promotion or something going on, and there was Disco Demolition that night. So, yeah, I was the pitcher in the first game, and second game never happened.
Never happened. Justin Maxwell leads things off. What do you remember most? I mean, obviously it was a big crowd. Could you tell things were getting unruly? I know you're focused on pitching, but could you tell things were getting unruly as the night evolved?
Yeah, just a little bit. You know, some toilet paper rolls bounce around the mound and some records bounce around the field. But
wait, while you're pitching?
While I was pitching. But what I remember was Ken Cravitt coming into the clubhouse between games, and I said, Crave, you're supposed to be pitching. What are you doing in the clubhouse? And he said, there's people all over the field. So I went down and sat in the dugout and watched that whole thing go down. 10,000 people all over the field.
Yeah, they blew up the records, which was bad enough because there's kind of a crater in the middle of center field, right?
Yeah, a little bit of a crater, I guess. And then I just saw fire, batting cage on fire, people climbing.
Batting cage on fire?
Fire.
Well, hopefully tonight's not going to evolve into anything quite that crazy. But you are now in Winter Haven, right? You and your family live there. You turned into the medical profession after baseball.
Right. After baseball, I ended up going back to school, and I'm a general surgeon now in my 13th year of practice in Winter Haven. But certainly a huge Rays fan. I'm here a lot.
I can see you and your whole family. Who's with you?
I have my daughter Rebecca and my daughter Hannah and my wife Linda.
That is awesome. Well, guys, Disco Demolition Night right here. We have the starting pitcher for the White Sox in Game 1 of a doubleheader that was never concluded, Fred Howard. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Todd.
All right, back to you.
Yeah, Todd, what a great find there. Fred Howard, he spent that 1 year in the major leagues and was right there on Disco Demolition Night. Maxwell swings and misses, out on strikes on the changeup.
Well, you know, during the pregame here, getting the people excited for tonight, the concert after, they had the little documentary on Disco Demolition Night, and they had people that were there, players that were part of it, interviews, footage, the whole night. Are you kidding me with that?
I know.
I mean, I had to stop my work and watch that. That was fascinating.
Yeah, and the strange thing about that, I looked up there, I knew half of those people. Pete Rocco, I know that guy. It's unbelievable the stuff that went on.
What a disaster.
Some guys who turned out to be sports writers were on the field, apparently in the Tigers dugout with refreshments, let's say, of an adult variety. And they said one of the Tigers coaches came out and said, "Young man, give me that bottle." He did. He says, "Now get out of my dugout."
There's also claimed that there were people that were there said, I saw a lot of people running the bases. There was hijinks all over that field.
Oh, my.
You name it, it was done.
Yep. And, of course, that's when Harry Carey was on the south side of Chicago, took the mic, and between what was supposed to be games of a doubleheader, asked the fans to get off the field so they could play the second game, and they would not have it.
No, there was zero. There was response to him yelling down at them.
Yeah.
They were yelling back.
Yeah, there was a friendly roar back.
Right, but when he
said, "No, we're not leaving."
Yeah, no. Having too much fun, torching the field, batting cage,
like,
apparently.
Harry, come on down. That kind of thing. Wow. Well, as promotions go, it attracted 47,000 plus.
Well, and that's not counting the people who were climbing up the back of the stadium and climbing in through the holes in the wall.
Yeah, that's the old knothole game.
Yeah, they're showing footage of these people sneaking into the stadium.
Wow.
How do you imagine you could get away with it? Well, think about that nowadays.
Yeah.
In this PC world we live in.
Oh, I for you.
Get it.
A couple of those guys might have been there. I know they were.
They were behind third base.
They're incognito. That's right. Swing and a miss. Krause out on strikes. You're right about that. He may have gotten to third base. People were all over that field. Wow. 2 up and 2 down. A couple of strikeouts here. And Matt Dominguez. There's a strike. Disco Demolition Night. I can't believe. I mean, kudos to Todd.
Yeah.
For finding Fred Howard.
How about that?
That's maybe the best report we've had in a long time. Dominguez flies out to Jennings, 3-0 as we go to the bottom of the 4th. bottom of the 4th inning. Let's take a look at the AT&T social media poll. With your votes to add Sun Sports Rays. Who's more surprising in the American League as slugging goes this year? TB1, Chris Davis, or TB2, Raul Ibanez? You can see their numbers adjacent to their photos there on the right side. Davis has hit another home run today to give him 36 for the year. To strike to Desmond Jennings.
I'll tell you what, that's a good question for today. Someone was on top of it, and I'll tell you something, it's a tough one. You know, Ibanez in 23 less games. Chris Davis, by the sheer number, that's going to get a ton of votes just based on. But you look at 23 less games for Ibanez. He's 41 years old, and he's playing in a cavernous stadium in Seattle, and he's got 24. That's maybe more surprising.
Well, and that's the key word, surprising.
Yes.
The way the question is posited there.
Yep.
Which would be more surprising? And Ibanez might be. I mean, we saw the way Chris Davis finished off the year last year. Oh, a broken bat skipping into the stands over the dugout roof. And Jennings is thrown out, 3rd to 1st. So 1 out here in the 4th. So I think Ibanez could be more surprising.
Well, look at that thing, just absolutely sheer and right off the top of the dugout and right up into the stands. And I'll tell you what, those things go up there sharp. They're flipping around. Just put it in the collection and off to the study.
Sean Rodriguez. Sean pounds it up the right side, moving George Hendrick to one side of the coaching box. How about that? 16 out of 24 home runs for Ibanez in Seattle.
That would be 2/3.
Way to go.
66.7%. 67 if you want to round up.
Down 1-1.
But that goes to show you how, when as a player, you know, whatever, when you go out to the West Coast, you're irrelevant.
You're like falling off a cliff somewhere.
I'm telling you, you become anonymous. I mean, no one knows what you're up to. I'll tell you what, you take Ibanez at that age and throw him on the East Coast with 24, 25 home runs at the break, and that's huge news.
Oh, you put him in New York or put him back in Philly.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
huge news. You don't even hear about it now. Oh, by the way.
Right. Here's one thing, though, that I really like about Chris Davis. 36 home runs. He's one of, I think, 6 major league players to have this many home runs before the All-Star. What I like about him, somebody asked him the question that he's going to be asked. What about performance-enhancing drugs and this and that? He says, I know that you have to ask that. It's sad that you do. No, I'm not using them. He says, I've been a pretty good sized guy, and you know, you look at what he's hitting, he's a good hitter as well, and he's playing in a park that's going to help him. And he said when all of that was going on with McGuire and Sosa, he was about 12 years old, and how disappointing it was for him as a young fan. There's a base hit to right. Rodriguez is aboard. It was disappointing for him as a 12-year-old fan, and then later to learn that what those guys did was aided with what they took.
Yeah.
Tainted. And he said in his mind, the single-season record really belongs to Roger Maris, who had 61 home runs in 1961. That's who he considers the legitimate single-season home run champion. And bless his heart for that. That's a refreshing point of view that he's not afraid to speak about. And so he becomes, I think, by virtue of that, he's going to have some rooting interest from a lot of fans who agree with him.
Well, he's always carried himself as a class act, and actually getting a chance to sit down and talk to my old manager, Buck Showalter, about him. Buck raves about this kid. Absolutely loves him. So you understand why he comes up with the thoughts, the well thought out opinions that he has.
So it's going to be hard not to root for him to win the home run title. I mean, he's out front right now, and so we'll see. But there's so far, and and unfortunately, maybe we're all jaded a little bit. You have to qualify. Well, so far, everything seems to be great, and we all hope that it is.
Yep.
And because he's been really impressive, and he's been tough on the Rays. No question about that. By the mound is short. Elmore to second. One flip to first. Not in time. Altuve gave it a shot with that flip.
You know, Sean Rodriguez playing at second base always said he did not mind the contact at second, turn into double play. He was going after Altuve, and Altuve knew it. Watch him try to get out of the way. Just that he knows what's coming. That's an outstanding job by both of those guys. Sean Rodriguez affecting that throw. Look at him go to the side there, trying to clip him as Altuve's trying to get to the bag and beyond as quickly as possible. That is outstanding hard-nosed baseball by both guys. I'll tell you what, that's the one thing you know you're going to get out of Sean Rodriguez is he's going to play a tough brand of baseball.
Longoria takes a strike. Yeah, you got to give that to him all day long.
Yes, he's got one speed. He only knows how to play the game one way. That's got to be something to be a second baseman, a shortstop, and the guy's bearing down on you, and you got to hang in there long enough to get that ball and then try to clear, and you know he's going.
Well, Altuve in the aftermath of that was doing kind of a, those little back pedals, this kind of a happy dance back pedal move. That he was out of there.
They still work. I have them both.
It's wide, 2-1 now on Evan. He's facing Dallas Keuchel. Now 3-1. Rays with a couple hits. A base hit by Loney. He was erased on a double play in the third. Base hit by Rodriguez. Zobrist has forced him at second. Ben at first. 2 gone. Tapper. Third base. Glove by Dominguez. And another ground ball. The Rays are out in the fourth. On to inning 5. 3-0 Houston. The fifth with this score. Time now for the Just Cement Auto Stuff Foolproof Stat. David Price pitching last night and suffering the loss. You can see his numbers through his first 3 starts since coming off the DL. And they've all been very impressive. And beaten last night 2-1. And that, of course, going to be important for the Rays post the All-Star break, because they get right back down to business with Toronto, Boston, and New York on that first road trip. And David Price going to get the pitching nod coming out of the break, apparently.
Yep. And he has been, well, I mean, who would have thought he'd put together those performances coming out? I don't care who you're pitching against. I don't care if you're in a rehab assignment. 7 innings. Obviously, he was limited by pitch count, actually more of the ups and downs in that start. And then 2 straight complete games, striking out 18 and walking zilch along the way.
And 87 pitches in that complete game last night. Ground ball, and Longoria grabs it. Elmore is the first out in the 5th. The Rays have set their rotation for coming out of the break. And David Price will make the start Friday against the Blue Jays. Hellickson, Archer, and then on to Boston, it'll be Matt Moore and Roberto Hernandez.
And that 4-game series in Boston, so you're going to get Moore, Hernandez, Price, Hellickson. And then you go into New York leading it off with Archer, Moore, and Hernandez on the back end of that trip. They'll each get 2. It's a 10-day road stand. I'm sorry. I had to throw that in.
Way to go. There's Pena chopping one down to first, and Loney makes the play unassisted. So Pena kept off the bases for the first time. He had singled and walked, and now grounds out.
Number 27,
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting trip. You know, the Rays obviously playing very well right now going into the break, and then you got to throw the anchor out and sit around for 4 days.
Yep. Well, the second half, and really it's almost the last third.
Yeah.
But the schedule is going to be challenging.
Well, it starts off tough. You've got a couple of West Coast swings that you haven't seen yet, and you finish the season with 20 straight games against top-level competition with not a day off. So you had better be well-rested and ready to go, because when you get to those 20, and you're talking about Boston, and then you've got Minnesota, Texas, Baltimore, New York, Toronto.
Yep.
Strap it on.
And here's the deal. If Toronto, of course, you never know what's going to happen in the East, and the Blue Jays had such great hopes. But you get to the end of the year with them, and their base hit the other way, a 2-out single for Altuve just beyond the reach of Zobrist. You know, if it comes down to that final weekend in Toronto, Blue Jays, they're going to mean business.
You had better believe it. They're going to have a lineup that can be very powerful, depending on what the pitching matchups are. They're going to give it to you.
So stay tuned, folks. I mean, right after the break. That's why this stretch here was so important. The Rays have been playing very well. They lost a tough game last night. They ran into a young right-hander who was very impressive. The double play ball he threw, not only 95, 96, but you know, he's had that great ground ball ratio in the minor leagues, and got ground balls when he needed them last night. And so all of these games important. Even after that road trip, Arizona and the Giants come in here.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy.
Nope. And going out west. I don't care who you're playing out there. You can play Legion post 532, and they're going to be tough if you're playing on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And by the way, speaking of last night, Jared Kosar and the job that he did to really handcuff the Rays through a great game. How about what he was rewarded with?
Yeah, he's back to the minors.
Oh, man. I read that this morning, and I'm like, are you kidding me? If that doesn't, offer you the chance to stay up here and get one more, I don't know what does. Now, obviously, that was part of it.
Oh, they just picked off Altuve.
Well, and you know what? A nice job by Hernandez, because he has given up a few stolen bases this year, and you figured Altuve was going to go. Look at him widen that lead. Quick footwork and a nice quick tag there by Loney.
We'll have more when we return for the bottom of the fifth. On Sun Sports is brought to you by your Gulf Coast Honda dealers. Visit your Honda dealer for great lease and finance deals on fuel-efficient Hondas. And by Checkers. Feast on. Bottom of the fifth inning. Will Myers stepping in to lead off for the Rays. And he takes the pitch away. One ball, no strikes. Keuchel has made 50 pitches now. And a ground ball. There's a base hit. Into left. So Myers on to start the fifth. Here's the breakout on Keuchel this year. First 45 pitches of his outings. The opposition hitting 266 off him. After that, 344.
Well, and as you see, he moves through the lineup. Those numbers bear out. It just continues to climb second time through, third time through, as they start to figure out how he is attacking them. And that's where the burden then falls on Keuchel to figure out a different way to get you out in that second at bat. Don't be so predictable. That's what that tends to become indicative of. As you get deeper and deeper into the season, more starts built up. If those numbers continue to climb through the lineup.
Now Luke Scott. Pitches around the knees for a strike. Here's the breakout on.
There you go.
Keuchel first, second, and third time through. So here, just a pitch over 50. Let's see what the Rays can do with him. Myers already a base hit.
And therein lies the challenge of being a starting pitcher. You know, coming out of the bullpen, you don't have a whole lot of time to get into the flow of a game. You've got to come in firing right away. You may only face a hitter, maybe an inning. As a starting pitcher, the challenge becomes not only do you have to be able to go out there and pitch 6, 7 quality innings, but you've got to figure out ways to get guys out multiple times. Each of them have their own unique set of challenges, and for the starting pitcher, it's trying to find out a way to get James Loney, Evan Longoria, Luke Scott, get them out 3 times.
Keuchel gets ahead of Scott with a curveball and a called strike 2. Loney had a base hit in the third. He raced on a double play. Rodriguez had a base hit in the fourth. Now Myers leadoff single in the fifth. There's a shot high and deep into right center. That baby's gone. Home run. Well, it's that time of the game.
It's kind of what you're talking about, too. Keuchel, a lot of curveballs to Luke Scott in his first at-bat. He starts him off with another one here in the second at-bat. Continues to attack with the curveball, and guess what? He gets wise to it. This one hangs up there, and Luke Scott destroys it. I'll tell you what, he continues his hot hitting. And that's great to see. Pulls the Rays within one.
That rat tail's still effective, apparently.
You know what? That's one area of my head, Dwayne, where I think I could still grow hair. And I may go for it.
Let's do it. Second half, come back after the break.
Well, I'm thinking maybe opening day next year. It doesn't grow that quick.
Well, we're going to start. You got to start sometime.
What better time than now?
Yeah. Let's get it started in here. Pitch down, 2-0 now to Loney.
Look at you over here, Mr. Pop Culture. Jeez.
That's disco night. Ground ball. Short right. Altuve positioned out there. The second baseman makes the play. Just a reminder as you enjoy a cold one to look forward to Miller Time later in tonight's game, brought to you by Miller Lite.
Frisky.
I said it's disco night. Casey and the Sunshine Band right around the corner.
70s, baby.
Jose Molina. Lifting a fly ball up the right side. It's going to fall out of play. Look out down near the bullpen. Well, the Rays on the board, and now they trail by only a run. Houston scored 3 in the first, and the Rays get 2 of those back so far in the 5th inning. Shoots it up the right side. Out of play. Keuchel on 0-2. Into the dirt. The ball to 2 strikes. Want to pass along a hello and a good well wish to our good friend, a great Rays fan and season ticket holder, Ken Hamilton. Having surgery, and we hear all of the reports are positive, and we're looking forward to Ken being back here in the ballpark soon. 1-2 now to Molina. Roll foul straight back. And the Rays got to Keuchel for 5 runs in 4 2/3 over in Houston. He has 4 1/3 under his belt right now. Myers single, Scott homered. Close to Molina. Count evens at 2-2. Down to third. It comes up on Dominguez, bounces to Elmore, and they still get Molina. That ricocheted off Dominguez to the shortstop Elmore. And Molina out at first. 5-6-3.
Yeah, you don't like that, especially because after the ball goes off Dominguez, it didn't go right to Elmore quickly. He had to go over into the hole.
He felt pretty good when that ball bounded away from Dominguez, and Elmore had to go a couple of steps into the outfield after it.
And then make a deep throw, by the way. He's not very close at that point.
Escobar shoots it toward the gap into left center field. One hop and to the wall, and Escobar's on his way to second with a stand-up double. Tying run at second in scoring position with 2 outs.
Well, you know, Escobar not wasting time. Likes this pitch, stays out over the plate, and he just hammers it.
Top of the order, Desmond Jennings. The Rays trying to battle their way back here in the 5th inning against the starter Dallas Keuchel. Takes it wide. Desmond 0 for 2. Now third to first. His last at bat and a broken bat. There goes Escobar. Pitch wide to throw to third. He got under the tag. It appeared they might get him, but to throw a little bit high. And Escobar steals third with 2 outs.
Yeah, I don't even know why you would go in that situation. I mean, 2-0 count. 2-0 now, but Escobar headed out. This is a breaking ball, and if the throw's on the money, he's out. You can see right there the ball's high. Escobar gets in underneath it, but with 2 outs, that is a risky attempt, especially when you have already pulled it within 1 run.
Yeah, you don't want to make the third out at third.
No.
If you're going to run, you better be sure that you're going to be safe.
You're starting to get to Dallas Keuchel. You're starting to, you're getting through the lineup. This is now the 3rd time through. You're starting to get to him. You've hit some balls hard in this inning. You've pulled to within 1. You get a 2-out double. That's a huge risk. It paid off. It may not have been the smartest move.
Jennings.
And my thinking is you're quick enough to steal third base in that situation. You're quick enough to score a base hit. 2 outs. Most base hits. 2 outs.
The count. There's a strike to Desmond. Alex Torres has started to loosen in the Rays bullpen down the right field line. Now Jennings puts down a bunt. He's going to beat this one out. He's safe. The run scores. And this game is tied. Desmond on a 3-1 pitch bunts home the tying run.
How about that? Saw his opportunity and he took it. And he put it in a spot that Wallace is coming in hard to field it and tag him. But he's moving one way. Jennings is moving the exact opposite, and he's able to blow right by him.
Desmond makes the steal of third relevant here with this bunt.
There's just no defense for that. Too much speed.
So the Rays have scored 3 to tie this game. And now Jennings, the runner. And Doug Brocail The pitching coach trots to the mound for Houston. Luke Scott's home run made it a one-run game. The bunt by Jennings has tied it, scoring Escobar. Tuesday, Ben Zobrist, Matt Moore, and baseball's stars gather in the Big Apple for the biggest event of the summer. Baseball's Midsummer Classic returns to New York with home field advantage for the World Series on the line. It's the 2013 Major League Baseball All-Star Game live from New York next Tuesday, only on Fox. John Rodriguez, the hitter. The pitch is a strike. Lucas Harrell up in the bullpen. Jennings with 15 stolen bases. He swiped second base last night in the 4th inning of the game.
And he's been on a recent tear on the base paths. Started off slow, has been coming on, and has the full attention of Dallas Keuchel right now here with 2 outs.
Pitch, a fastball misses. It's 1-1. Braves have tied the game here in the 5th inning. You know who leads this team in game tying or go-ahead runs batted in? Desmond Jennings. That was his 18th. So he bunted home the game tying run. Cut by Rodriguez, and now it's 1-2.
And Desmond Jennings wishing he would have followed through on that first movement right there, because if he would have been off and running there would have even been a throw. Cat and mouse game between Keuchel and Jennings.
Tapper foul ball, so the count is still at 1-2. Desmond with 36 runs batted in now, and 5th in the league in runs scored. Rodriguez expanded the zone a bit. He's out on strikes, but the Rays come up with a 3-run inning. 2 coming on the home run by Luke Scott. Desmond Jennings bunted home the game tying run.
As Yadiel Escobar scored the game-tying run on the bunt by Desmond Jennings. Escobar, in addition to playing the great defense for the Rays all year long, very comfortable at the plate and obviously on the bases. And here's why through translation with Dave Martinez.
Bueno, sí, estoy diciendo yo ahora mismo, me siento contento, me siento feliz y eso me ha ayudado a, tú sabes, a tratar de tener buenos resultados en el terreno y jugar un poco más tranquilo.
He said it helps him relax and play his kind of game, and he said he loves it here. You know, he says it's been a lot of fun for him. The only thing he has to worry about is going out there and being himself.
Guys, at the beginning of the year, he was asking Jose Molina and Joel Peralta, is this really how things work here? And Joe Madden said, just let him be himself. He calls him El Nino because he has a boyish passion for the game. Back to you.
And yes, the answer to that question would be that is how it is here. And Joe Madden says run hard to first and to wear whatever you think that makes you look hot. That's pretty much the approach. It's working out.
Yeah, it certainly is.
1 ball, 2 strikes here to Castro.
And you can see how comfortable he is. I mean, you see the pregame antics down in the dugout, the way that the swagger that he carries out to the position at shortstop, the aggressiveness at the plate, very, very comfortable in the environment that Joe Madden has created here.
Did it come back? Not quite. Stayed in that pitch, and it's 2-2. So an important inning now for Roberto Hernandez, with Castro leading off, Martinez and then Wallace, as the Rays have come back to tie the game. Still 2-2.
New life. Roberto Hernandez trying to do his best David Price imitation, give up those runs in the first and then throw up a bunch of zeros. David would do it for a complete game.
And again, that pitch stayed in, so it's a full count.
You know, it's just such a small margin for error on that pitch. You know, if that ball comes back just another inch or two, you're going to get the strikeout. If it comes back 4 or 5 inches, that ball gets hammered. If it is where it was, it's a ball.
Oh, and a cut and a miss. Well, he had a little break on that, a slider, and strikes him out with it.
How about that? A left turn. Watch this thing. Just absolutely cut across the plate. Nice pitch right there by Hernandez, picking up that strikeout on a full count, no less.
Strikeout number 5 for Roberto Hernandez. JD Martinez, a little piece of that off-speed pitch, fouling it back.
Well, that's something that Roberto Hernandez has been doing more this year than he has in the past over his career numbers. You know, the strikeout percentage is way higher. Walk percentage is down. Now the home run percentage, extra base hits up a little bit.
And to third, Longoria gloves it. Just go to first. So 2 outs now in the 6th inning. Be sure and get in on the action with exclusive on-field seating in the Papa John's bullpen box. Available dates are going fast, so act now to make your group reservations behind the Rays bullpen. Call 855-GROUP-TB or go online at raysbaseball.com. Two outs, and now Brett Wallace, who homered a 2-run shot in the first. 1 ball, no strikes. Now Escobar moves to the first base side of second, leaving Longoria alone on the left side. Two 2-0, 3 home runs on the year for Wallace off Rays pitching. 4 home runs total. 2 outs in the 6th. Two. He did. He's out on strikes, says Eric Cooper. 1, 2, 3 go the Astros, and the Rays coming in to hit bottom of the 6th, tied at 3. Ground ball in the first by J.D. Martinez scored Jose Altuve before Brett Wallace belted a 2-run homer. Rays got a 2-run homer in the 5th from Luke Scott. The bunt single by Desmond Jennings scored Yunel Escobar to tie it. Ben Zobrist leads off in the bottom of the 6th inning. Pitch is too low as Dallas Keuchel still out there. Zobrist, Longoria, and Myers do. Ben shoots one foul. Hit it hard, but well fouled.
The Rays able to get to Keuchel for 3 runs in that 5th inning. Now through the lineup, the heart of the lineup now for the 3rd time. And that Astros bullpen starting to heat up, so you'd like to see him get to him right here.
2 balls and a strike.
Well, Keuchel was really in complete control through the first 4. Nice job of moving his pitches around, and then out of nowhere, the Rays just explode on him.
Two and 2. Third, Dominguez to his left, makes the throw to first, and Wallace keeps his foot on the bag. 1 away. Evan Longoria's due, and that brings Bo Porter, the manager, out of the dugout. He's had the bullpen ready. So Keuchel gets the first out in the 6th. Game is tied 3-3. And that's going to be it for the 25-year-old left-hander from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Time for the Metro. game. The right-hander on to match up against Evan Longoria. 5-9 with a 5.06 earned run average. It's his second relief appearance after 19 starts. No ball, no strikes.
And again, being a guy who has the 19 starts, used to getting into the flow of the game, you don't have that luxury here. You've got to come in with your best stuff and go right after these hitters. Time, especially now that you've gotten into the bottom of the 6th inning, you're in the back end of this ball game, in the tie ball game. You got to come in firing away.
Fastball up 92, 93. 2 balls and a strike. Down to third. Dominguez. Throw to first in time. So Longoria is retired for the second time on a ground ball to third. Gives him 0 for 3 in this game. And now it'll be Will Myers. 5 1/3 for Keuchel. 3 runs, 6 hits. The Rays got all 3 runs in the 5th. 2 coming on the Luke Scott home run. Now Will Myers, and he takes a strike. Curveball. It's in for a strike. It's 1-2. No fly ball outs recorded in the Rays scorecard so far today. Myers fouls it. Myers opened the 5th inning with a base hit to left, and then the big fly came off the bat of Luke Scott. His 8th home run of the year into the right center field seats. Two. So far, we've seen the fastball around 93 and the curve in the low 80s. The count's going to go full. He missed with a fastball. 3-2 on Myers. Hit. Fastball, and Myers is on for the second time. A 2-out single. And that will get the red hot bat of Luke Scott to the plate here in the 6th.
Now Harold's just going to challenge him with a fastball right over the heart of the plate in a full count. Myers shoots that ball between short and third, hits it hard. Extends this inning for the Rays, and like you said, gets Luke Scott. He has been on a torrid pace, now a 9-game hitting streak.
One for 2, the hit, the home run in the 5th. That's inside. It's his 8th home run of the year off a breaking ball.
Yeah, well, he had seen a number of them, and he finally got one to his liking, picked up the spin, and dropped it out into right center.
There goes Myers. A swing and a miss. No throw. Will Myers in with a stolen base. His second.
And why not? 2 outs. Push the envelope. He fought back and tied it up. Will Myers off and running. Big strides. Castro coming out of the glove, not able to grip this ball properly. Be able to make a throw. It becomes easy.
So Myers stealing his way into scoring position. 2 of 3 in the steal department for the year. See if Scott can deliver now. Breaking ball too high. 2-1. Jake McGee's up in the Rays bullpen. They have 6 innings from Roberto Hernandez today. And this game is tied 3-3. Luke Scott. Myers heads to the plate, and the Rays lead 4-3. Luke Scott comes through again. His 3rd run batted into the game.
Tell you what, he just continues to get it done during this streak. But even with runners in scoring position, that average the last 12 games or so pushing 400. And he does a nice job of staying back there on the off-speed offering. And shoots this ball into right field. Will Myers, of course, is running on contact, so he's going to score easily. And I'll tell you what, Luke Scott, we've seen this from time to time. He's streaky, and when he's going on a hot streak, he can carry a team for a time.
Well, the Rays have seen that from both sides. When he was with Baltimore, he hurt the Rays at times, and boy, he has certainly helped them getting hot now.
Now this game was firmly in control of the Houston Astros, and then Luke Scott has busted out last 2 at-bats. He's driven in 3. The Rays 4 total to now lead.
James Loney works at a strike. It's 1-1. Loney singled in the 3rd. Two balls and a strike. Keuchel worked 5 1/3, made 80 pitches, charged with 3 runs. Harrell in the game, facing his 4th hitter. The Rays have the go-ahead run off him. He gave up 2 runs in his last relief outing Tuesday in St. Louis, working 3 innings in that outing. Screen foul. It's 2-2. Runs the count all the way out. A fastball low. Rays tied it with 3 in the 5th. They've taken the lead with a run in the 6th inning. Into shallow center. Maxwell coming in to make the catch. Rays are finished in the 6th, but with 2 outs, they score a run. Luke Scott with the base hit, giving the Rays a 4-3 lead. Progresses into the 7th inning at Tropicana Field. Tuesday, Ben Zobrist, Matt Moore, and baseball stars gather in the Big Apple for the biggest event of the summer. Baseball's Midsummer Classic returns to New York with home field advantage for the World Series on the line. It's the 2013 Major League Baseball All-Star Game, live from New York next Tuesday, only on Fox. Jake McGee will take over on the hill for the Rays. Roberto Hernandez working the front 6, making 93 pitches, and turns it over to the hard-throwing left-hander.
And you know what? You got to tip your hat to Roberto Hernandez. Once again, the Rays starter as last night with David Price, and he ended up being a hard-luck loser. But after the 2 runs in the first, David went 8 shutout, and after the 3 in the first off Roberto Hernandez, he throws the next 5 shutout, allows the Rays offense to get back into it, and now turns it over to this very good back end of the Rays bullpen with 9 outs to go and a 1-run lead, and it starts with the big overpowering lefty Jake McGee.
Justin Maxwell leads off, and that's a strike. He did go. Maxwell looped a double up the right field line. That was in the first, showing his great speed in the process.
I mean, flying.
One and one. So 6 innings, 6 hits of 3-run baseball for Roberto Hernandez. He struck out 6, walked a man, gave up a home run, made 93 pitches. It's fouled back and out of play. The fastball from McGee at 95 miles per hour. Rays bullpen at 229 since May the 27th. That covers 41 games after a slow start. It led the majors in strikeouts since that time with 162, and almost had one there. Maxwell checked. They've also held the opposition to a batting average of only 188 during that stretch. He's out now. 97 with that fastball. Maxwell out number 1 in the 7th.
Yeah, just dotted up. I mean, Jake McGee, that is right here. You're going to get a nice overhead view. Boom, right on the outside corner with the high octane velocity. No doubt.
right-handed hitter, Mark Krause. Jake throws him a strike. Again, fastball. First one at 96, this one at 97. Strike three call, 96.
There's not a thing that Mark Krause is going to be able to do with that pitch. I don't even know if he could foul that one off. This is a borderline fastball right there. I mean, at the patella tendon on the outside corner. What can you do except to go out and just hope you get a piece of it to extend the at-bat?
That was reminiscent of last night in the 5th inning when Price powered him up at 94, 95, and 95.
That's right.
Good pitches. And right here, 96, 97, 96 on that corner. Dominguez. One strike to him. Outside, 1-1. 8 strikeouts for Rays pitching. 6 for Hernandez, 2 for McGee, and 4 of the last 5 Houston hitters have been out on strikes. 1-2, 97. Pop up. Loney's making the call at first. 1, 2, 3 here in the 7th. 7th inning stretch. Rays lead 4-3. Field all set for disco night with KC and the Sunshine Band, and Disco Duck apparently making an appearance as well.
Not familiar with the Disco Duck.
Rick Dees, Disco Duck.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
And he is?
He made Disco Duck famous. He recorded the song.
And you are? I mean, you are just a wealth of knowledge today. You're covering everything from the 70s to current events. Goodness. It's impressive, D-Wayne. It's impressive. You have upped your game. You're going into the All-Star break strong.
Hey, speaking of All-Star break, the Rays are going to be well represented up there beyond a couple players that we've mentioned. Of course, Ben Zobrist goes. Matt Moore deserving to go, and he's up there as well. Ron Porterfield's going to be up there. We've mentioned that before. All deserving. And Kevin Barr, the strength and conditioning coach, will be there. And he's one of the best, obviously.
Yep.
The reason he's there. Guy Gallagher and Jose Fernandez, Pepito.
He's
up there already.
I'll tell you that's awesome. That's awesome. All so deserving. All great guys. Pepito was the home clubhouse, or actually visiting clubhouse guy in Des Moines, Iowa, for the Iowa Cubs when I was in AAA with the Indians.
Yep.
And he took care. What an awesome guy. It's just nice to see him. Come full circle, the work that he does down here, and then getting a chance to go. KB, obviously, Guy Gallagher. I love him because I just like to go, hey, Guy, and he answers. It's great.
Well, he has wherever. There's a little tap on a breaking ball, and Molina is out at first. That throw a little high, but Wallace kept his foot on the bag, and so Molina is the first out here in the 7th. Guy known throughout baseball for running a great clubhouse.
I remember coming in here as a visiting player, and it was notorious across the board. The Tampa Bay Devil Rays / Rays now have the best visiting clubhouse in Major League Baseball, and I will tell you, getting a chance to come in and experience it firsthand, top notch. Top notch across the board. He does an unbelievably great job for these visiting teams that come in.
Yeah, that staff, and then on the home side with the Chris Westmoreland, Westy, he's the best, just absolutely the best. So all the way around, I don't know that there's any better crew, and so it's going to be well represented at the All-Star game.
Getting little pieces from all over the place. Training staff, strength and conditioning, home clubhouse, visiting clubhouse, little touch of everything. But, that just speaks to the depth of the organization. We talk about the depth of the pitching staff and versatility all the way through, the behind-the-scenes people. They do a great job. It's such a fun organization to be a part of.
One to count to Escobar. This one is down. 2 balls and a strike. So is that something else that we should give Andrew Friedman credit for? We're going to be talking with him tomorrow, by the way. I think in the 2nd inning he's going to stop.
He's coming up here?
He's coming up here. He has granted us time in his presence.
Ooh, that is a big day.
Yeah.
Big day.
Absolutely.
I'm nervous.
Yeah. I'm going to go home and study.
You talk about a guy who can walk in and command a room. There he is.
There. See, he's working.
Always on that phone.
Absolutely, all the time.
Yep.
And ball 4 to Escobar. So that's the first walk given up by Houston pitching, and Escobar is aboard. Yeah, he'll be around, and that'll be fun to talk a little baseball with him. Because we can say this, we don't have to say it to him when he's here because ego and all that. But this guy really is, the job he's done is remarkable. Just flat out remarkable. Andrew has taken, I think, the metric side of this game, and he's taken the traditional evaluation, scouts, eyeballing talent, and he's made all that work.
Yeah, but been able to mesh it, and you're right, it's and not easy to do.
Yeah.
But that goes back to his work ethic and the hours that he puts in, the time that he puts in.
And we don't have to say anything about that tomorrow. We can say that now.
Well, I'm going to ask him where he's been. I mean, he's been out floating around. Who knows what he's up to? You got the trading deadline coming up. You've got draft. It's always something with that guy.
So that'll be fun. Second inning tomorrow. We'll be chatting with them.
Looking forward to it.
Maybe we should we wear tuxedos?
I'm going to bring a cane and a top hat.
Oh yeah, what about the acid wash jeans?
Well, I'm going to use, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. This is what third year of full time for me?
I think so.
With you?
Yeah.
And I just stumbled across your closet back up underneath here. Apparently you need all that closet space and I get nothing. But I'm hanging in my acid wash jeans in your closet tomorrow. That's where they're going.
Okay, very good.
If you don't mind.
Well, you have one. You just have to pick the lock because somebody stole the key to it. So we don't have a key to it. It's yours. Welcome. 3-0 the count to Desmond Jennings. Joel Peralta at the ready in the Rays bullpen. Molina's grounded out. Escobar is walked. And a strike to Desmond. It's Matt Joyce on deck now with the right-hander Harrell in the game. Sean Rodriguez has been in that number 2 spot. And ball 4. So a couple of walks back to back with 1 out.
Now this is the other thing that you've got to try and avoid doing as a guy coming out of the bullpen. Tight game late, cannot afford to hurt yourself and your team with the free pass. Started with Escobar, now extends to Jennings, and now what you do is you hand the Rays 2 base runners, both with pretty good speed, without the virtue of having to put the ball in play. You just can't do that late in ball games.
So Matt Joyce will pinch hit for Sean Rodriguez. Rodriguez had a base hit. He was 1 for 3, and now here's Joyce. Rays lead 4-3, and they have an opportunity to add to that 1-run lead. One ball, no strikes. Kyle Farnsworth joining Peralta in the bullpen. Two balls, no strikes. So Harrell, after a visit from his pitching coach, Doug Rocaille, has fallen behind the pinch hitter Joyce, missing on the first 2 deliveries.
And as of right now, there's nothing going on in that Astros bullpen. Starting to scramble a little bit now, but he's going to have to figure it out.
It's a strike around the knees. 2-1. Josh Fields starts to limber in the bullpen. Too low. 3 balls and a strike on the heels of back-to-back walks.
That's a lonely place to be. Lonely place to be out on there in the middle of that field and not be able to throw strikes.
3-1. The pitch is fouled back. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Two on, 1 out. Here it is, 3-2. Joyce lifts it down the left side toward the line. Krause will have the play in fair territory. 2 gone. And if the Rays are to continue this inning, it'll be up to Ben Zobrist. Here's something that was brought to my attention during our trip in Houston. Talked with a longtime member of their broadcast crew, really on the production side as a producer. He asked me, in the 50 years of the Astros' existence, who would be their best draft pick at shortstop in 50 years. They signed Sonny Jackson as a free agent. Pretty good shortstop, light hitting, good speed, good fielder. But that was before the draft. Ben Zobrist, in 50 years, the best guy they've taken in the draft at shortstop. How about that?
Yeah, how about that?
That's pretty amazing.
For a second baseman, right fielder guy.
Rays got him when he was at the AA level playing at Corpus Christi, and he was playing shortstop there. And we've seen him play short. Finished last year playing short, and he was just fine. Two and 0 the count.
Oh, by the way, just as a side note, I'm getting word from deep within the bowels of this stadium to stop handing out the false praise and compliments to the organization and just stick to the game.
Really?
Yep. Just passing it along.
Is that because?
Apparently they think we're being a little disingenuous.
No, we're serious.
They said stick to the game.
We're serious.
And then some snide comment about Cornhusker football. I'm not sure.
Pitch popped into shallow left. Elmore out from shortstop, makes the catch, and that will retire the side. Couple of men left on base. We're headed into the 8th, and it's 4-3 Rays. Been a good time here at the Trop for the middle game of this series. 4-3 ball game of the Rays coming back to take the lead. Joel Peralta takes over on the hill, the third Rays pitcher, following Hernandez and McGee.
Now following the script, on for the 49th time already. ERA 3.29, more than a strikeout an inning. That opponent's average very impressive at 178.
Matt Joyce is in the game in left. Jake Elmore takes the first pitch. Curveball, and that's strike one.
And you know, you can understand that right there. Peralta, he likes to know early in the count what these guys like to look for. We've seen Jake Elmore, whether it's the 9-hole or up leading off, very aggressive. So you start him with that first pitch hook and get strike one.
And right back with a cut and a miss on the split.
That's knowing the scouting report. That's knowing what a guy's looking for. Aggressive hitter early in the count. And he comes right in with 2 high-quality off-speed and is immediately in control of this at-bat.
The pop-up back foul that will carry out of play. Peralta immediately has 2 things going for him. Number one, he's smart about what he does.
Yeah.
The craft of pitching. He's very smart, and he's very competitive. What 2 great qualities to have in a guy you're going to run out there in the 8th inning. Runs it up and in a bit, 1-2.
You know, and he's trying to elevate that fastball. Actually wanted it away from Elmore. Doesn't really matter, regardless of whether that ball ran in or not. The elevation sets up the next pitch perfectly. If he wants to go after that, you're not going to be able to do anything with it. You get your out. He wants to take it. Now all of a sudden you can go right back to that split, the breaking ball, something down.
Fly ball into center field. Jennings is there and makes the catch.
Now he came back with the fastball, and Elmore trying to go to that gap out there, but you're not going to get it by Jennings. So often you see that. You change a guy's eye level, let him see something up in the zone, then you come back with something that appears it's going to be, you know, and then diving down, whether it be the breaking ball. You see that a lot with guys that have big curveballs.
Yeah.
Very effective with the fastball up and the big hook. Peralta's can be effective with that split.
Well, now it's Carlos Pena. He was single walked and grounded out. First pitch is up. You'll take home your favorite kitty tomorrow. The Rays take on the Astros during Family Fun Day, presented by the Tampa Bay Times. And kids 14 and under get a DJ Kitty Confetti Globe, brought to you by Sagicor Life Insurance while supplies last. Visit RaysBaseball.com. Want to know the count to Pena? Upstairs 2-0. Chris Archer tomorrow against Eric Bedard. It's a 1:40 first pitch. We'll be with you at 1 o'clock. Chris Archer, he'll be after his 4th win tomorrow. Bedard 3-5 and Archer 3-3 going into that game.
I like how we cleared up the globe, the DJ Kitty Globe. We knew it wasn't snow.
Confetti.
Confetti.
Hopper, third base side. Foul. Longoria giving it a chase, but it's out of play. Cisnero has joined Fields in the Houston bullpen.
Barely.
One out, base is empty. A tapper back to the hill. Little underhanded toss. Pena's out of there. 2 up, 2 down in the 8th. So with the bases empty, it will be Jose Altuve. Officially 1 for 3. Had a base hit in the 5th inning and was picked off first. Reached on a fielder's choice in the 1st. And eventually scored on a ground ball. Which is too high. Top half of the 8th, the Rays got 6 from Hernandez, 1 inning from McGee, and now Peralta in the 8th inning. He checked in time. A little on the appeal down at first as he held up. Rays now have 14 consecutive quality starts. It's a club record. Prior to that, the record was 9 in a row back in 2010. High fly ball, center field. Jennings with a lot of room takes care of that one. Top of the 8th is in the books. Home half of the frame coming, 4-3 Tampa Bay. That ball game moves into the bottom of the 8th with the Rays leading. It's a 4-3 ball game. Joel Peralta with a perfect top half of the 8th. Let's take a look at the AT&T social media poll again. Tweet your votes to Sun Sports Rays. Who would be the more surprising American League slugger so far this year? Of these two, TB1, Chris Davis, who's hit another home run today to give him 36, or 41-year-old Raul Ibanez, TB2, he has 24.
Well, after much thought and deliberation, and the key word being surprising, I'm going to go with Ibanez. At his age, his ballpark, the number of games, the fact that he's sitting at 24 is more surprising, even with the sheer volume of Chris Davis.
And we hear the vote is very close right now.
Yeah, razor thin.
First pitch to Evan Longoria. Josh Fields in this game. Longoria, Myers, and then Luke Scott due up. Fields, the third pitcher for Houston. Evans sends a high fly ball back into right center. Martinez setting up to make the catch. One away. 5 1/3 for the starting pitcher Keuchel. Rays got 3 runs off him. Harold worked an inning in 2/3. Gave up 1 run. He is the pitcher of record now for Houston. Roberto Hernandez, the pitcher of record for the Rays.
Well, how about the way that they got that run off Harold? That was a 2-out hit by Will Myers, who then swiped second base. And then Luke Scott, who's been red hot, gets the base hit out into right field.
Here's Will Myers again. He's 2 for 3 in this game. Will up to 283. One and one. It feels pretty good arm out of this bullpen.
Like watching him pitch.
Yep.
I mean, he really is a max effort guy, straight over the top.
And you know, if you think about it, with their rotation, Cozart, who was sent to the minor leagues, he's going to be back. The All-Star break coming. They need a spot for Maxwell to activate him. You get Cozart, Norris, and Lyles.
Yeah.
They're starting to get the nucleus of a rotation.
Well, absolutely 3 arms you can work with. In fact, Cozart beating the Rays last night in Houston, but Norris pitched a great game against the Rays and defeated them. Jordan Lyles, we saw him, and certainly his upside.
Upstairs to Will Myers.
That's where it's going to start, though.
Yeah.
You know, you can put together whatever you want in the field, you bring in some sluggers, develop some sluggers. You're going to have to pitch. You're going to have to pitch in the American League West.
High shot back into left. Krause coming in for it. 2 gone. Yeah, as much as offense is a premium item in the American League, you still have to pitch and catch the ball. So whatever league you're in, you're going to have to pitch and catch the ball to have a chance. Bo Porter out to make another change. 2/3 of an inning here for Josh Fields. Time now for the Metro PCS call to the bullpen. The lefty brought in. Well, Luke facing the lefty Keuchel in the 5th inning. Down in the count. Hit the breaking ball out of here.
Yes, he did. He took advantage of one that hung out over the plate. And Luke Scott, you see what he's done off lefties, over 300.
It's his 2nd home run of the year off a left-hander. And with the bases empty and 2 outs, he faces Blackley.
It doesn't matter what hand you are right now. Luke Scott is seeing the ball extremely well, making good adjustments, being very aggressive.
Pitch to Scott as a strike. Houston got Blackley from Oakland. Moved to Houston in April. Luke takes it down. 1-1. 3 runs off Keuchel and 1 off Harrell. Rays have Fernando Rodney loosening in the bullpen. Houston in the 9th will have Castro, Martinez, and Wallace due up. A little bit high. 2 balls and a strike. Ground ball. From the outfield, Altuve makes the pickup and the throw to retire Luke Scott and the Rays in the 8th. Ball game moving into the 9th inning. It'll be Fernando Rodney with the Rays leading 4-3.
We are back at Tropicana Field. It is Rodney time with the Rays leading 4-3 in the top of the 9th inning. Don't forget, tomorrow coming up on your pregame show presented by your Gulf Coast Honda dealers. Great show for you. You got to see this. We have the top 5 plays from the first half made by the Rays. This guy, Chris Archer, takes the hill looking for another good start. And Ben Zobrist is scorching it heading into the All-Star break. Of course, though, there's not a break for him as he'll be in the All-Star game. First, though, it's our Checkers post-game show. Todd and Orestes will host from left field. Dwayne and B.A. from the booth, and I'll be down on the field getting all your interviews and in the locker room, including Joe Madden. Yesterday, this time, I was looking for 3 more runs. Today, simply 3 more outs. Gentlemen.
All right, Barry, thank you. As we go to the 9th, it is Fernando Rodney. Rodney in with a mark of 3-2 and 21 saves in 26 opportunities. And he'll be facing the 3, 4, and 5 hitters in the Houston lineup. Jason Castro, the Houston All-Star catcher. He has doubled and singled 2 out of 3 today. Nice pitch. That's a strike. Fastball 94 at the knees.
Well placed.
Twins beat the Yankees earlier today. Nuno got the win. Perkins his 21st save. Hughes the loss. Look out, that's fouled right into the Houston dugout, scattering some of his teammates. Red Sox play the A's later in Oakland. Blue Jays have a 7-3 lead on Baltimore in the bottom of the ninth at Baltimore right now. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Change up disappeared on Castro, and he's out on strikes.
Now the Rodney changeup, middle of the plate, down. Tough to hold up on. That ball comes out of the hand, and you're thinking, well, that's out over the plate at my knees, and late action. Not to mention, you got to be geared up for mid to upper 90s. Tough all around.
J.D. Martinez, big swing through the fastball in the mid-90s. Martinez drove it around with a ground ball to short back in the first. High chopper, charged by Zobrist. Quick throw to first, got him. Boy, that can be a helpless feeling waiting for that to come down.
All I was thinking was unnerving. Unnerving was the word that came to mind. You see the chopper, you know he's hustling. You got to wait for it to come down, and then quick with the transition, glove to hand. And Ben Zobrist does it very nicely and efficiently to pick up out number 2.
And now it's Brett Wallace. Wallace with the 2-run home run in the first inning that capped their 3-run inning. Ran it into a double play in the third, struck out in the 6th, and now he faces Fernando Rodney. Too low. Rodney picked up a save over the Astros in Houston in that 11-inning 7-5 win. The Astros and the Rays battled 2 in the final game of that series on the 4th of July. With Rodney's 18th save after number 22 here. 1-1. Rodney trying to save it for Roberto Hernandez. Retired the first 2. Inside fastball 96. Hernandez, by the way, after giving up 3 in the first, retired 10 of the last 11 men he faced in his 6-inning outing today.
He recovered nicely, and he gave the Rays the opportunity to come back.
2-2. Out in front of the changeup.
And now can the Rays bullpen finish him off?
Wallace has been a nemesis to the Rays. Rodney trying to get him. Got him. Rays win it. Rodney strikes out Wallace. And the Rays come back to take game 2. A 4-3 final here at the Trop. A 1-2-3 ninth inning for Fernando Rodney. And the Rays win their 54th game of the year. So they go to 8-1 on the homestand with the game left tomorrow. Come back after seeing their 8-game winning streak come to an end last night, 2-1. A 1-run victory today.
Yeah, and a nice comeback by the Rays after falling down 3-0 in that first inning. Roberto Hernandez recovers. The Rays offense comes alive midway through the game, and the bullpen was set up perfectly. 7, 8, 9, McGee, Peralta, Rodney. How many times have we seen it? Another win.
Rays win it. The standings in the East, 4 back of Boston. Baltimore game in the bottom of the 9th. The Orioles trail Texas and the Rays. How about that in the wild card? Even in the games behind department now, the top 2 teams in the wild card race. Let's go to the field. Todd Cowlett standing by with Luke Scott.
All right, Dwayne, thank you very much. Luke, it's been a lot of fun watching you at the plate lately. 9-game hitting streak. Could be a dozen. You only got that one at bat in Houston that could have been a longer streak. But what do you feel like has been the big difference during the last 2 weeks for you?
Just been more relaxed. You know, I have a good idea where the barrel is, and you know, this game's about a feel. I'm just starting to get a good feel at the plate, and you know, the rest is the same approach that I've always taken. I give the Lord my best every day. You know, the results are up to Him.
We heard Joe Madden talk yesterday about how he kind of related hunting terms to you in terms of being patient at the plate. What message did you get from him on that?
Well, I think what Joe's doing is he's speaking my language. So he just tells me that, hey, look for a ball in a certain zone, hunt it. When you get it, kill it. You know, kind of caveman style. But yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of fun. We're doing a lot of things well as a group. We're getting good starting pitching, good bullpen. You know, lineups contributing top to bottom. You know, so it's been a lot of fun.
Tell us about the home run. Lefty, you've been hitting lefties this year. Take us through that at bat, and then Evan gave you the little matador. That's usually your role.
Yeah, I was just looking for something to drive and just get ready early for the fastball and react to the breaking ball. And I fortunately got a good ball to hit and put a good swing on it. And yeah, Evan was waiting with the matador towel, and we gave him the horns.
And when you get a crowd like this for a concert night, I guess the Lukes resonate a little more. You've always heard that throughout your career, but here in the Dome, it seems like it's getting louder this season.
Yeah, the more people we have in this place, the louder it gets. In a dome, the sound tends to echo a little bit more, and whether it's at home or on the road, it all sounds the same. Whether it's Luke or it's Boo, so I've been blessed with that, with that kind of name.
And then the final RBI, Luke, was Will Myers gets in a scoring position with the steal, and then you're able to find a hole on the right side.
Yeah, those are the little things that we've been doing as a whole, as a group. Where we got 2 outs and we're not giving away at bats. We're still up there fighting, trying to drive a ball, trying to get on base, and anything can happen. Will gets a pitch that he can handle, hammers it to left. He gets on first base, is able to steal a bag and get in scoring position, and I was just up there trying to look for a ball that I can get out, get in the outfield somewhere, and it worked out well for us.
It's been fun to watch you and the team lately, Luke. Thanks very much.
Oh, thank you very much.
All right, guys, back up to you.
All right, Todd, nice job. Rays win this one. It's a 4-3 final as Roberto Hernandez wins it. Fernando Rodney saves it. Back with the totals in a moment.